All right, something else to note. I've got this set aside on the coals here where it can bake. Oh, that's looking absolutely delicious. Tastes like Christmas. Hello, welcome to WayPoint Survival. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a 1930s Hobo Christmas pudding in a tin can. Stay tuned. During the Depression era of the 1930s, there were a lot of very simple recipes that country folk made, poor people food perhaps, and things that a hobo would be very familiar with, things that he had eaten perhaps growing up out on the farm, and as they would travel from place to place, it would have to be made with ingredients that could be easily gathered from farmers, housewives, things like that. As you would go out, you would work, you would weed and hoe, perhaps in the kitchen garden. And then if you were trying to put together some sort of a recipe, you would have some old tins and some things you would ask for, perhaps some flour or some sugar or various kinds of things, perhaps some coffee as part of your payment. And if they didn't have any cash money, it would be very common for them to actually pay you in produce or in things that they had from the farm. So again, very common for them to make these sort of things. Now, did a hobo carry all of this stuff all the time? Of course not. Hobos traveled very simply. They didn't have a whole lot of worldly goods, as it were, and because they were on and off of freight trains, they really had to be careful how much weight they carried because it could become a liability and could actually be dangerous. So outside of a bedroll and perhaps a haversack with some basic goods in it, they wouldn't carry a whole lot of stuff. However, remember that scattered throughout America, usually outside of town, generally next to water, close to where there was a slight grade where the train would have to slow down, which would make it easier for a hobo to catch, then you would find the hobo jungle. And the hobo jungles were all the way from very simple jungles where you would have maybe a skillet and perhaps a broken piece of a mirror, maybe a razor frame to stick your razor blade in and shave up, and maybe a pot to boil up, but they didn't have a whole lot of stuff. Then there were other jungles that were quite elaborate, and they would have various homes and houses built out of skids and pallets and old pieces of tin and wood. And we are planning on building a hobo hovel a little later on, probably next year now. And we're going to show you kind of what that would look like, building a Depression-era house that a hobo might build in a jungle based on what we see in pictures and descriptions from that era. But inside of there, he would have all sorts of pots and pans and things, a lot of times with broken handles. Cups would have no handle on it, you know, like a porcelain mug with a chipped off handle. Someone would throw it out in the city dump. And so they'd go and get those things. They would collect it. It'd be a motley assortment of this, that, and everything else. But along with that, a lot of people carried things in tins because they were durable, and also a lot of stuff back then was just made in tins. So we have quite a selection, and I'll give you a shot in here of what we're carrying, and you can see what would be put into an old crate and put somewhere inside of the hobo house, somewhere where it could be covered from the rain and the wind, and also free from rodents. They don't chew through tin very well, and it would be something that they could use then to gather various items. And perhaps for Christmas, the hobo crew, whatever they were, the group gathered in the jungle, maybe 5 or 6 fellas or more, would go out to different places to work and perhaps be given a scrap of paper, piece of a paper bag, something scribbled on it in charcoal from the fire, or an old stub of a pencil, and would say, you get the sugar and you get the flour, and see if you can ask for perhaps some cinnamon or some allspice, maybe some salt, all of those things. So when they came back together, they would have a list of ingredients to make something special. We're going to show you how to do something like that right now. All right, so here you can see we've got an assortment of items. We've got an old dish rag, just a towel, keep the hands clean. We've got various packages. Here's some raisins, very common. We've got just an old can that we're going to be using. We've got a fork and a spoon, a tin cup, a tin plate, measuring cup. We've got a coffee pot here for making coffee, and then various things in here, salt, baking soda, flour, and we'll be going through that as we show you the recipe. All right, so the first thing that we're going to need is a full cup of flour. All right, we already got some in here. Make sure you get that in there good. And then you want to tap this down a little bit, make sure that it settles good. All right, just a little bit more will do. All right, there we go. Now we've got a good full cup of flour. Next, we're going to take our can, and just an old can here from soup, and we're going to pour the flour in here and get that in there real good. All right, see how much that is? It's up to about right here. And then we're going to take some raisins. And remember that raisins, dried fruit, very popular back then. And this is going to be about a half cup. All right, so that's about a half cup of raisins there. Now, in the old recipes, they often say you want to go ahead and mix fruit into the flour first to keep it from sinking. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and these things sometimes stick together, so it's a good idea to kind of pull them apart and put them in there a little bit at a time. And I'll do that and get back with you. Before we go too much further, I want to remind you to make sure and go to our website at waypointsurvival.com. There are multiple places where you can sign up for our brand new Waypoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter. Just chock full of great ideas to help you and your family get ready for any kind of an emergency. A lot of preparation wisdom, things that you don't want to miss. You probably want to print this stuff out and keep it for later reference. It's that good. We'll appreciate it so much. Thank you. And as I've been doing this, I've been dripping them in here one by one and then stirring with the spoon so that making sure that all of the raisins are coated well. You can see that perhaps. And a bunch of clumpy raisins in there, but they're not stuck to each other. So that's very important, as I said before. All right, that's looking pretty good. Next, we need to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Put that in there. Next, we need to add some cinnamon. It's clearly marked here. And we're going to add about 1/2 teaspoon. Don't want to do too much of this. Of course, this is a strong spice. All right, got a little bit there too much. I want to dump all that in. That's probably about 1/2 there. All right. And we also want to add some clove to it, and just a pinch of this. We don't need a whole lot of this, so just a small pinch, as it were, of clove spice. Just a little bit more. That's really going to add to the flavor and make it more like Christmas. Next, we need to add a pinch of salt. Now we want to stir together all of this really thoroughly, all of the dry ingredients. We want to make sure it's thoroughly stirred in together. And you can tell because of the cinnamon and the other spice that we put in there, it's going to turn it slightly brown when you get it all mixed up. You'll be able to tell that from the color change. But just take your time doing this and make sure you get it well mixed. All of the dry parts together. Now, using our tin cup, we're going to pour this into here. Make sure that's nice and emptied out. So you see that makes a pretty good tin cup of our mix. I'm going to set that to the side for the time being. All right, now that we've got our can emptied, we want to go ahead and take some fat of some sort. You can use lard, you can use bacon grease, you can use shortening if you wish, but we're going to need 2 tablespoons of this in here. All right, that should be about 2. That's another reason why you need to keep a rag handy, so you can wipe yourself off as you're cooking. What I'm using here is bacon grease. Would be very easy for a hobo to get a hold of, and people would keep that, of course, in their kitchens. Go ahead and wipe everything down. Try to keep your implements dry. Next, we need to add 1/2 cup of water to this. So we've got a measuring cup here. We've got a couple different ones that we're using for stirring and measuring. just a half cup of water. Pour that in here with the fat. Now we're going to take our fat and water and we're going to put it right here by the fire, and we're going to go ahead and melt that down. And while that's heating up, we'll take the spoon and stir this together. Gonna melt the fat and the water, make it nice and soft. Go ahead and stir that good. Now you don't have to have it super hot. It just needs to be enough that everything is well melted. Of course, water and fat don't really mix very well. But that's going to do it right there. And that's going to make it so we can mix all of our ingredients together. All right, got it off the fire. Use the rag, make sure not to burn ourselves. Now, we've got to add one more thing. We need to add a half cup of brown sugar. All right, get the brown sugar out here. All right, find our half cup marking here. And go ahead and put that in there. Okay. There we go, half cup of brown sugar. And now we have to stir this together. And this is our wet mixture. So we've got our dry right here, and now our wet. Stir that in real good and make sure that that all gets nicely stirred and mixed in. The top of the can's cool enough now to hold. You can see there, it's making a nice kind of a slurry. It's starting to all mix together. Next, we want to start stirring our wet mixture into our flour. And you can use whatever container you want to use for this. And of course, you want to overflow it. These ingredients make a pretty good mix, so you might want to use a little bigger container than what I've got here. But a hobo would have to use what was available to him. And so you just kind of go slow and try not to dump it. And I'll do this and get back with you. All right, you can see here, you want it to be kind of like a batter, but not super thick. And you keep working it until you get all the powder out of the bottom. Just keep turning it over. You can see when you bring up a little bit of the flour, and just keep working it like that. And as you get it pretty well mixed, you'll stop seeing any of the white from the bottom, and it'll be nice and thick. And you kind of tell the consistency of it here. If you need to change the consistency, you want to go ahead and add some more water perhaps, but this is actually perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. All right, the next thing we've got to do is we've got to grease the inside of the can really well. And we're just going to use some of our bacon grease here. And get down in there. This is vitally important if you're going to not have things stick together. You also want to make sure you use a safety can opener so you don't slice yourself when you're doing this. If you use too small of a can, this is going to be difficult. So you want to make sure you use a can you can kind of get your hand in, and make sure that that gets really nicely greased down inside of there. Like I said, you can use anything you want. You don't have to use bacon grease or lard. You can use shortening or whatever you prefer. Next, we want to take our grease can and our batter mixture, and we want to spoon it in here to about 3/4 full. All right, that did pretty well actually. Didn't have very much left over, and I got room for it to rise and everything. You can see what we got left, not much. Next, you're going to want to get a can, heavy-duty cook pot of some sort with a decent lid, and then you need to find a flat rock that you can put down in the bottom, just like that. Next, we're going to fill this about halfway with water. Like that. And then this will set like that on top of that rock. And hopefully, if everything's not too tall, there we go. Now it's going to set down inside. I'm going to put this over the fire. All right, you want to do this over coals, and of course we've got a good bed here of hardwood coals built up just for this purpose. We've already got the coffee on, and we're just going to simply set this in. Make sure it's relatively level. We can check it one last time. Just make sure that it's in good shape before we actually leave it be. All right, yep, it's sitting in there. It's doing pretty good. Kind of in the center. Gonna make sure it's balanced. And we'll put the lid back on it. You don't have to put it on real hard. So just kind of set it on there, and that'll be good enough. Now, as far as cook time, bake time, it's going to take about an hour, hour and a half on a good bed of coals. Again, we don't want to get it too hot. We're not trying to scorch or burn anything. We're using this as an oven to bake the bread, but not burn it, and that's with the water and the greased can and all of that. We just essentially have made a hobo type oven where we can have some sort of a Christmas treat. All right, something else to note. I've got this set aside on the coals here where it can bake, but I've got my coffee on this side, and I'm keeping the fire going over here so that I can have good coals to pull over. As these die down, I've got to keep some of the fire going and try to keep it away by a few inches from this pot here. Doesn't matter if it gets a little bit warm, it's not going to hurt anything, but what I really want to do is I want to make sure that I've got enough coals so that as I cook, I don't lose heat and then end up half baked. All right, so let's check on this. Let's see if it's rising, and let's see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that's looking good. It's cooking well. It's still pretty doughy, so I'm gonna let it definitely sit in there and cook some more, and kind of push this over a little bit, but it's doing what it's supposed to. All right, the coffee is percolating good, so we're gonna go ahead and pull it off the fire here. And then our cup that we use to mix everything in, we're just gonna pour the coffee right on top of it. It's got plenty of sweetener and sugar and all that stuff in there, and that'll also help melt all of this, and will make cleanup a whole lot easier. All right, we've got our tasty cup of coffee here, and we're just gonna sit down here on our piece of a stump and enjoy some nice coffee while we wait for our Hobo Christmas special to finish cooking. It is true, things always seem to taste better outdoors. It's definitely a peaceful and quiet night. Let's check on it, let's see how it's doing. Get this lid off. All right, try not to set it on there too hard. All right, that's looking pretty good, pretty steamed. We've got a sliver of wood here, you can see that, and we're gonna stick it down in here, get it down inside, way down in there, and see if it comes out doughy. No, it seems like it's pretty clean, so that's a good sign. All right, I think it is ready to pull off of the fire. Get it off of these coals. All right, our hobo boiler. You can get a good look at that. Nicely raised. Looks pretty tasty. And we're going to take the coffee and put it over top of the coals and let that go ahead and get warm or stay warm. And we're going to take this and set it down on our bench and let it start cooling off. All right, we're going to set it down right there, and then very carefully, this can be hot, reach in and pull this can out, set it down quickly, and we need to let this cool off for a few minutes. All right, it's looking real good. Get out our nice plate here. We still got about this much water left in here. Now, when you're doing this, you do need to check your water level. You may have to fill it back up. And of course, you can drink this. It's been boiled. Do whatever you want. Toss it out. It doesn't matter. Get rid of that rock as well. All right, let's see what we got here. Now, one of the easiest ways to get this out is by using the blade of either a table knife or your pocket knife. And mine's kind of mushroomed out around the outside, you can see that. So what we're going to do is we're going to carefully cut this off first, just like this, and that will leave us a nice kind of a muffin. It is a little damp on top just because of the way that the steam kind of comes around the top of the lid. But then we can take this and we work our way around, just like this. Just go all the way around and as deep as you can, And if you'll notice, if you greased it right, look at that. It slides right out. We can lay this down like so, and then we can take our knife and we can slice this open and make some nice slices, not only for ourselves, but for our hobo buddies. Oh, that's looking absolutely delicious. It's nicely done too. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nice large pieces, as you can see right there, of this wonderfully done bread. And this would be a hobo Christmas treat like no other. Again, very easy to make. Just a little bit of time over a fire, a little bit of water, a few basic ingredients, and we have our hobo Christmas treat. Next, we take our cup of warm coffee and we get out our brown sugar here, our bag, and we're going to sweeten the coffee a little bit. Of course, this is white sugar with molasses added. That's where we get our brown color. Don't do too much, but we want to sweeten it nice, and you'll see why here in just a minute. All right, let's stir that together good in this warm coffee. Now, if a fella had access to some real molasses or some honey or something like that, that would be nice, but we don't have that here in the jungle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these, just like that, in our plate, and then we're going to take this delightful syrupy sweetened coffee, and we're going to use this over top, just like this, and that is going to make a delicious hobo sauce. Well, it's time to give it a try. Wow. That is actually really, really good. So essentially what we've made here is a poor man's pudding, a hobo pudding, something that the hobos would have absolutely loved to have, a delightful Christmas treat, easy to make from items that you could find just about anywhere in any country kitchen, and it's absolutely delectable. Tastes like Christmas. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed another trip into the past as we examine the recipes, the shelters, the lifestyle of the classic hobo, starting after the American Civil War in the 1860s and right on down to World War II in the 1940s. About 60 to 70 years of a lot of great history, amazing things, and this poor man's Christmas recipe, this hobo Christmas treat, is again something worth trying, and I think you're really going to like it. This is James Bender for WayPoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also make sure and check out the links in the description box below, just under the More button. While you're down there, you'll find the link for our WayPoint Survival digital class. This is where you can sign up to train in the comfort and convenience of your own backyard the top 20 skills that we consider to be the most important from our Phase 1 Survival and Bushcraft class. You'll also find the links where you can sign up for the WayPoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter. It's brand new, we just started it in 2025, and it's absolutely full of great ideas for getting you and your family ready for whatever may come. Make sure and sign up for that totally free. Also, you'll find the link for waypointsurvival.com where you can sign up to take in-person classes at our beautiful training facility here in Southern Ohio. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.